What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Joe Nissim, and with me, as always, is my main man, Mr. David Fuchs. Mr.
What's up,
David,
Joe? Joe,
how
I'm just
we?
gonna put this out there right now. That pre-show huddle that we did, you gotta delete that.
It was. It
Nope.
wasn't. It was just a glitch there. That because I hit the start and stop button twice.
Because we can't have them hear how much crap we were talking about Bronny.
Oh yeah, that's true. It's true. We can't.
We
Although
can't.
I'll never talk crap about Bronny though. I love Bronny. I feel bad for him. He's like in an impossible situation. He
Yeah,
can't win.
yeah.
So, but David, CFP is over. I am exhausted. Obviously, even for me, it's an emotional ride. And, at the end of every CFP cycle, I hear the same thing over and over again. And one of the things that always kind of it breaks my heart a little bit is when somebody goes, "Oh, I was so close." Honestly, Joe, I don't know if I have it in me again. I don't know if I can do it. Like just the sheer disappointment, and you can see it like just written across somebody's face of the sheer disappointment of trying as hard as they did and coming up short and not knowing if they have it in them again. And I'll tell you, I had a conversation with somebody recently, and they were like, I I was I didn't want to go home because I didn't want to tell my family that I failed.
I mean, I totally get that, and that's exactly why I always tell you guys, and I tell you this, but I never tell anybody that I'm taking these types of things. I don't. I always keep it hush hush until it's done.
Yeah, I mean, and we were talking about, I was like, if there's one great lesson that you can teach your kids, it's how to deal with failure. Like my mom never showed me and my sisters like how to deal with failure at all. It was always like my mom was really good at trying to soften the blow, but never of like let's pick you back up and get going, like because you're going to fall on your ass more times in life than you care to admit.
Yeah, no doubt.
And to do it, to go through that process, and not and sit there and go, I don't know if I can do that again. I get that. I 100% get it. Because I think when you don't try or you're kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out, I think that's a much easier thing in your head to reconcile to go, I wasn't really trying, so I'm disappointed, but I'm not that disappointed. I kind of expected it.
That's the word that I was going to throw out there. By the way, it's if your expectations aren't high and you fail, there's no downside. You don't really feel like if you go into a big game and you're a huge underdog and you lose, you're not going to be that upset. I mean, you're going to be upset that you lost, but it's not as much of a blow as if it's like, oh, and you got blown out, let's say. If it's like a close game and if it's a team that you really feel like you were evenly matched up against and you really had a shot and it was a close game till the end, that's where it's the most disappointing.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree with that, especially if you had 1 foot in and 1 foot out and you did okay on the exam. Like if I kind of studied and I passed, I got 3 greens or 4 greens, I'm like, I did better than I thought because that's not that far away, right? Like
Right.
that's pretty good. If I actually put in some effort here, then I should be able to get over. And it's like, again, you're a 20 point underdog and you lose by two. Nobody said you played great. You played above where you were supposed to play. The other
Yeah.
team played down. But when you're the
Yeah.
20 point favorite, it's brutal. It's brutal to lose. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
No
and
doubt.
it's even more brutal when you get blown out. When you go in there with the expectation of passing and you end up passing 2 sections or 3 sections and then failing five or failing or going red on five or going red on four, that one just hurts the ego. It's painful. I don't think there's a worse feeling than hitting the submit button and thinking you're gonna pass
Right.
and then seeing a fail.
Yeah, but I think it's worse though when like if you get like 2 out of the 7 sections or whatever, right? And you got blown out, it's like, all right, I it's obviously disappointing. You expected to pass and you then ended up pretty much falling flat in your face. Like, yeah, that's like embarrassing and you feel like complete shit after that. But I think it's worse if you were like right there and you missed like one section because then it's like, fuck, I came all this way. I pretty much passed it. I was as close as you could possibly be. Now I got to restart the whole process over to make up like maybe 5 questions as
Ugh.
opposed to, as opposed to
Ugh.
like, all right, I failed it, but I missed, I got to make up 50 to 60 questions. I wasn't even close.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? To go through the whole thing to make up a couple of percentage points is so much more agonizing than going
Yeah.
through the whole thing again, but like having to redo the whole test pretty much.
Well, I think the flip side of that is like, is that worse than studying your ass off and then getting your ass handed to you? Like I put in all that time and effort and I wasn't even close.
Yeah, I think I'd rather that, to be honest with you. I'd
You'd
rather
rather get blown out than be close.
I'd rather get blown out than be close. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Because
I
I'd
I'm the
rather
opposite. I'd rather be close. Like at least I know like I'm in the ballpark versus like me putting in 200 hours and then getting completely
I
annihilated.
know, but I would
Mm.
feel like after that that I pretty much did what I needed to, right? You went through it. You at that point you probably did a really intensive study process. You probably had a really good strategy. You were probably, and we'll talk about this in the next episode, you were probably ready to pass.
Right.
You did what you needed to do.
Right.
And you missed it by like 1 or 2 questions because maybe you missed reading it, or maybe they tricked you, or maybe you went too fast or whatever, as opposed to, you know what? I actually just went in there and got my ass completely handed to me. I wasn't even close to being ready. So I shouldn't have passed.
Mm.
As opposed to like I should have passed. I did what I needed to do. Now I got to do it again.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm like, I don't know. Like at the end of the day, a fail is a fail. I think it's hard for me to rationalize going through an entire process and not being even close. I mean, I get what you're saying, which is like, at least you did something completely wrong, and that if you fix it, you're in a better place. But to me, it's like, if I get blown out, I'm wondering if this exam is for me.
Well, that yeah,
You know what I mean? Like I'm sitting there going, well, maybe this is bigger than me. Maybe I can't do this. Maybe this is too much. And I'll tell you, the CFP scores, the ones that you get from Prometric, are a bit deceiving because you'll think you're way worse than you are. And unless your dials are all the way low on every single topic, you probably didn't get blown out, but
right,
you're probably somewhere in the range of 10 to 20 points short. You know, e- Even though you think it's a blowout, it's probably you're 15, 20 questions away,
right.
more so than not. But the question becomes like, how do you get back in the saddle? Because, for most of us, we're not going to quit, right? Even though maybe your initial reaction is often emotional, it's often irrational, and it's often incomplete more so than anything else. You're in the belly of the beast. It feels like crap. You don't want to do it. It's embarrassing, coming home and having to disappoint the people around you who supported you, especially when you have family and you have time away from your kids, you have time away from your spouse. You've sacrificed the time, you've sacrificed the energy. How do you get back in the saddle?
If you're that close, I mean, you I mean, you take like a small break, right? Like when I failed it in 2021, I took a very like a week or two off and then just, restarted the whole process. I kind of re-engaged or or reevaluated some things and then said, I'm going to take another shot at this.
Do you think your that motivation is just gonna kind of come back and find you?
Yeah, it did for me. Definitely. I definitely think it comes back to find you because I think like once you start, I know like right when you fail, you're like, fuck, like now I'm demotivated. I don't feel as good about it. Should I take it again? Should I not? You're restarting it. You're seeing like, oh, I have like 3 or 4 months left to take the exam. It's going to be so hard, blah, blah, blah. You're feeling so overwhelmed. Once you get in the middle of it, or really not even the middle, like once you start doing it for a couple weeks and you're like, you know what? I already forgot about my fail from a few weeks ago or from the last exam. I am I'm just reinforcing some of these topics that I already know. So you're gaining confidence from that, from like reviewing topics that you know already, that's giving you confidence along the way. I think the motivation comes back. And I can tell you for absolute firsthand, it absolutely did for me.
Hmm.
It absolutely
I don't think motivation is gonna come back to find you. I think
you do.
again, like I think you're looking at it from the standpoint of you had 1 foot in and 1 foot out. So now I think that was more exciting for you because you were like, you're sitting there going, I didn't take this seriously. And now it turned on that competitive switch in your brain, David. And I think you were like, fuck that. I'm going after it. Right. And you did. And all the credit, like that is for anybody who ever competed in anything, I feel like that flips that competitive switch. I know it does that for me. And once I'm in that zone, don't get in my way because I'm gonna go after it. I think the other side of this is that if you did put the effort in and then you come up short, I don't think motivation's gonna come back and get you. I don't. I don't think you're gonna be motivated. I don't think you're gonna be motivated for months. I think maybe 6 months, 9 months down the road, you get motivated. But I think getting back in the saddle is a matter of discipline and not motivation. Motivation is not going to come and find you magically. I think you're going to, if you want to do this, you have to put this in your mind. And I know this is not an easy ask, and I know this is tough. You have to be bigger than your emotions because the emotions of the moment of the day, like there is nothing fun about failing. There is nothing cool or glamorous about failing. It is, however, telling you you need to change something, you need to do something different, but there's nothing glamorous about it. My opinion, that's more about I'm going to put 1 foot in front of the other and do this. And I will say, if you do get back in the saddle and you get to that point, you can't pick up where you left off. You got to start over
Yeah.
and you got to start slow. And I think starting slow is going to be the thing that kind of gets you back into it is do not go in and try to study 6 hours a day or five or three or two. Start at one, just start at an hour and just get back in the zone because again, I think knowing where you stopped, like, and again, remember that end of preparation where you're doing mock exams and you're reviewing and you're doing all of those things. That is a very different prep period and a very different intensity than what you do at the beginning.
Hmm.
So that's kind of my take on it. I know that it's, and for everybody who's watching or if you're listening on Spotify, um, very different takes on this. And this is kind of interesting. And, regardless of where you're sitting, this is your sign to get back in the saddle. Um, you don't have to do it right away. You don't have to do it next week. You don't have to do it 2 weeks from now. But it is your sign to say, I need to put together a plan. Raise your hand if you need help. Go and find the help that you need, whether that's through me or through one of the other CFP providers. Go and get yourself some help and talk to somebody because they're going to give you a subjective view. They don't have anything, they don't have any skin in the game, so they can be completely honest with you. But it's not going to magically happen. And if this is something that you want to do, you're going to have to pick yourself up here and you're going to have to get back in the saddle, but start slow. You don't have to beat yourself up to do that. Get started slowly, ease into it, and then eventually that momentum will start rolling and the motivation will come back to find you. So, as always, everybody, we hope that you found this information helpful. Feel free to reach out to David or myself with any questions, comments, or concerns, and we will see you guys on our next episode.